The hot young Pope is the new hot young Dumbledore. I'm Sasha Pearlraver, and this is Screen Junkies News. You heard right. Jude Law is taking the role of young Dumbledore in the sequel to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which takes place in the Harry Potter universe. Duh.
Oh, yeah?
Moving from New York to Paris and London, this film will see Dumbledore in his youth when he was still just a transfiguration professor at Hogwarts, long before he took over as headmaster. Here to talk with me about this is Roth Cornett and Spencer J. Gilbert.
Youngledore?
Oh, Youngle Hot Door.
What?
Okay, so I'm sure anybody who clicks this video already knows, but Roth, catch us up. Bring us up to speed on the Dumbledore-Grindelwald relationship, because we've got Johnny Depp.
Yes. So
on,
Johnny
no one
Depp,
was happy when that happened.
Nobody was happy because Colin Farrell
was great
in Fantastic Beasts, and in a way, you wish that he could have continued on and played Grindelwald, right? Like,
There's still time. They could just Michael Gambon, Johnny Depp. I look like this now.
Now I just stay looking like this. I'm not the Doctor. I've taken on a new form. And then in the end, they transformed and it was Johnny Depp and he was Grindelwald.
I have to say, this is kind of weird because Johnny Depp and Jude Law previously played the same character in The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus when after Heath Ledger passed away. So in my head, I'm like, are they the same person? No, they are two different people. Oh, so explain how this is going to work.
Maybe Johnny Depp was a boggart. He's just the scariest thing you can imagine.
You could imagine,
Yeah.
and then really it's still Colin Farrell.
Retconned.
Yeah.
Done.
Fixed.
Done.
So what's going on in their
Spencer
relationship,
picked
though? What's going on with this Jude Law thing? Because people are freaking out.
Yeah, so I wonder if everybody, I think people who've read the books are familiar with their backstory. It wasn't really explored in the Harry Potter movies, and it was always something that I thought was a more interesting part of the books, which is that as teenagers, Dumbledore and Grindelwald are friends, and he is basically a wizard supremacist. You know, he says, like, we need to rule. We are superior. Look at us with all this magic and stuff. I don't
Wizard
understand.
power.
Wizard power. Yeah, and they have,
It's a different kind of wizard.
yeah, they have a
Grand
whole
wizard.
Grand wizards.
they have a whole
Oh yeah, look at that. They like fire too.
legion of hackers online. They're very organized and
Oh,
technologically savvy. It's crazy. So, and then Dumbledore kind of falls into it for a period of time, and he's like, you know, we're always worrying about the Muggles, but we really need to worry about our own kind. You're kind of making sense to me. And then Grindelwald becomes such an ideologue that Dumbledore's like, woo.
It doesn't just become an idol.
He doesn't become
ideologue.
yeah.
He like tortures Dumbledore's brother or something like that.
Yeah, and
the
right.
first famous duel between them.
Yeah.
Here's what. Okay, can we talk about two different things? Because one's the casting thing, which I
Yes.
like, and the other is this movie, which I don't think I like.
Yeah.
Well, let's unpack this,
Yeah.
Spencer J. Gilbert. Why do you like this casting? Let's start on a positive note.
All right, young Dumbledore. He's arrogant. He's a little bit cocky. He's got a beard, which I think Jude Law can do. Jude Law
facial
can do
hair
a
is an
beard.
important
And I
aspect
think
of
that
this.
Jude Law fits that character of like a young, hotshot, cocky magic professor.
Do you like this casting, Ross?
I love this casting because, yes,
No, man.
and I love that
Oh my
image
God, yes,
also,
I love
by the way.
The young Pope was the bomb. His wardrobe, I want.
There's
so
nothing
badly.
about that show that makes sense to me, but
I
I'm
couldn't
going
get
to...
past
so
that dead
great.
baby pile in the first episode.
That's as far as you got?
Yeah.
You're missing out, bro.
I see a pile of dead babies, I click away.
Oh, you're wrong. No. You have no idea what you're missing. There's kangaroos, too.
It's weird because normally I see a pile of dead babies and I click right further.
I know. That
In
is
this case, I
clickbait
was
for
so-
Ross. She's like, dead babies.
This is not going anywhere good right now.
So many comments.
So many comments. I
Okay.
don't like dead babies at all.
But you do like Jude Law.
I do like Jude Law. I like him for this role for the same reasons, because Dumbledore, the most interesting part of that story, you're right, like they fall out for a variety of reasons that have to do with their family, with Dumbledore's family, and it goes to very ugly places. They have a very famous duel in 1945. The weird thing to me about this, though, is that it's not set in either of the really interesting time periods, which is Jude. I want to see him when he's going down the dark path and then turn around.
Which is when he's a teenager.
Which is when he's a teenager. By the time we meet them together here, Dumbledore's already split away from him. He's working at Hogwarts.
And it's before the climactic World War II duel, assuming that this follows, a year or two after Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
So going back to Spencer's point then, so why don't you like this movie? Is it the same thing? Is it the timeline issue, or is it...
Yeah, I mean, okay, so if this is a 5-movie arc about Dumbledore and Grindelwald, first of all, then what the hell was that first one about? I don't care about Eddie Redmayne's magical creatures. So this is 5 movies leading up to something that we know is going to be cool, but we're about to get our Chamber of Secrets. We're about to get the filler second of the series that, unless we get a prequel to our prequel about them as teenagers, we're going to get something that's more set up for something that's 4 movies down the line, is the final confrontation.
So do you think that is there a possibility that they're going to sort of readjust the timeline and piss off a lot of people? Or do you think that they are just sort of like dragging this out because they got big names, and big names make for a bigger box office?
I don't think so, because in Fantastic Beasts, he was already a nefarious figure, So it's not really, because there's no way to have them go through the friendship now unless you're doing that in flashbacks. In this movie where you're setting up, it's like the prequel inside of the prequel, I guess.
Oh my God, it's like a little Russian nesting doll of Inception.
It's like prequels and prequels and prequels and prequels. But this is this weird nebulous in-between period where Grindelwald, when he becomes like the darkest wizard before Voldemort, and when he's on his path, it's during World War II. So this is just like him gathering his forces and Dumbledore being like, that's a terrible idea. What's happening in this movie?
What's happening, and who is there with Dumbledore? Because all we know that will be carrying over, especially if this movie takes place in France, it's probably going to be Eddie Redmayne again. Are we going to ship Kowalski off to maybe pre-war France?
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled, but I do love Jude Law as young Dumbledore.
Yeah, I love Jude Law as young Dumbledore. Look, we talked about Fantastic Beasts. I love sort of dipping into the Harry Potter world anytime. And hey, if we're getting anything wrong in this timeline here, feel free, as I know you will, to correct us in comments.
Comment below. Yeah.
But to me, that always has been one of the richer parts of the book that just unfortunately the movies just didn't have time to get into. And also, you were dealing with Voldemort, who's a very similar character. He was like Grindelwald on crack, So you were kind of already dealing with that. It's more Dumbledore. It's more the guy that you love, the guy that's this figure of wisdom, right? Going through a period of time when he's not. That to me is the interesting meat of that story.
So if you were to guess what is going to make this worth the dollars to go to the box office, what would you say it would be?
I need me some duels.
Yeah,
right?
We need some duels. Hopefully we flash forward enough to make it interesting. And this isn't just a movie about the build-up to Magic World War II, but we actually get some of that. Or introduce some new characters that we maybe haven't heard of. Shocking,
whoa,
I know. Whoa, crazy.
Whoa.
But I do like, just in theory, I like the idea of, young Dumbledore going after his man crush, Grindelwald, which is something we didn't touch on. There's a whole unrequited love thing going on there.
Yeah.
So that has like a lot of dramatic potential. I'm just afraid now that we know that this is a 5-film arc, that 2 is just not going to get me where I want to be.
I would say that I'm still extremely optimistic about it because I like this casting so much. And I think that the story that you could get into here, like I'm saying, if you at least establish some of what went on between them as teenagers, and if we get to see Dumbledore wrestling with his own ethical core, but more than that, he's in love.
Well, that's what I think is so interesting. Like what the things you'll do for the person you have a crush on. Maybe he does go down the garden path a little bit with the hopes of, how can you have Jude Law and Johnny Depp on screen and not have them kiss?
Well, I think that I don't know that
that's not a gay thing. That's a Johnny Depp thing.
It was an unrequited love. I mean, Dumbledore was
it's like kissing
in love
an old
with
sweat
him.
sock.
Is it used or is it like from the wash?
Like a coat rack with just a lot of dangly skin on it.
Oh, God.
Johnny Depp?
Yeah.
That's Johnny Depp to him. And a gold tooth.
So what about Jude Law?
That's fine.
Yeah. You get all hung up in him.
Yeah.
So in that Pope. So many comments. Just seeing them unfold. I think this, like if they touch on the idea that he tries to save him because he still loves him and he wants to get him back to the light side, and that's the dramatic arc, then I'm into that, plus some kind of dueling. Like, it doesn't have to be the duel. It could be a pre-duel. but some kind of duel.
I don't know. The more you guys talk about this and the more it's like I did it for love, but the love didn't love me back and then we had to fight, the more I'm like, yeah, this is going to be great.
Yeah, it could be great. Done right, it could be great, but you're skipping over the part where they fall in love. Like, you're skipping over the part where they're young and they're friends and they fall in love.
And you're probably not getting the part where they fight.
And you're probably not getting the part where they fight, because when you're super young, things do seem black and white to you.
Absolutely.
It seems like you can solve the world with one big idea, and it's just that Dumbledore grows out of that. I mean, that's not all that happens, but the crux of the drama between them is when they're young, and then in World War II when they're old.
Well, luckily, there's 5 movies for them to explore it. So there's plenty of time. But we want to know, how excited are you to see Jude Law jump into the Harry Potter universe? Let us know in the comments below. You can tweet us at SJ News. Make sure to like and subscribe. Of course, you can always click here for more Screen Junkies news. See you soon.